secrets that you keep.
So we're going to be talking about Julian Assange today. That is the sexy Australian WikiLeaks hacker who exposed the government, the CIA, for their nefarious murders, rapes, schemes, horrific war crimes that the public often largely ignored. And he's been basically locked up. Is he still in an embassy, or he's like awaiting like a I don't know if it's death sentence or life in prison?
No,
We're basically just outing the government for being
he's in
monsters.
the UK. I think he's currently. I think he's been discharged from the embassy and he's currently at a UK prison.
Yeah, I'm Larissa. I'm a social 7, which might mean nothing to you if you don't know anything about the Enneagram, and you don't have to know anything about the Enneagram to watch this, although we will be peppering it throughout. We will be explaining things. It's a personality typing system that helps you understand the core motivations and fears of all these different types of people, which is fantastic to know because when we're talking about the dark, evil people on the planet, you can understand how to ruin them. And we'll be using it also to talk about people like Julian Assange, who I'm categorizing as a hero of the apocalypse, although other people don't have to agree with me. I only speak for myself. And talking about how these sort of hero archetypes emerge, how the type of people that actually stand up and do something to try to make a difference, and how that might show up in a pattern with, personality, behavior, psychology, whatever. Yeah.
I'm Veronica. I am a social self-pres 9-wing 1. And I'm also interested in what is happening now currently, and the motivations of the players involved on the chessboard right now, globally, global politics. And I'm excited to be participating in this call and linking Julian Assange to his typology and to his personality, so we can shed some light on that as well.
Hello, I'm Vittoria. That's a pseudonym. My type is a core 6, a social 6, which is I guess you will come to know later that it's the type most associated with the sort of people who are like Julian Assange. So what else?
You tell the truth.
Yeah, I think it is always interesting to look at motivation that just doesn't stop at things like power and money. There's something that's underneath that. So yeah, that's interesting to look at. Nice.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
Oh,
Damn.
Kudos to Veronica for being the one to point out that Julian Assange is probably an Enneagram 6-wing 5. That was sort of a 6 moment, if you will. Yeah, again, like he's like exposing the government for their wretched deeds, and that's why he's being terrorized by the government.
Yeah, no, I think the only back to the Enneagram thing, the only missing piece from 6 is like the temperament part. Like I see him like doing a lot of it is what it is. This is neutral. Like I don't see him having that kind of strained popping vein kind of 6 thing going on. I mean it could be like there. It's just like he's kind of holding it together for the press or whatever.
I think he feels very strongly about the importance of the information that he's sharing. Like he feels he feels conviction, and there's an importance about the quality and the kind of information that's going out to the public. Like this is what he based WikiLeaks on, and there is a sort of detachment that where he's letting the information speak for itself. And he said this a few times. And I think that is the 5 part of his personality, either as a fix or another aspect of his personality, or it could be just his core type. So
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I had to come around to 6 because of that neutrality, that energy that he has. But like what you said about, it's like, because I was thinking about this too, it's like fives operate more with the abstraction metaphor and stuff. So it's like if you think about like Stanley Kubrick, if he's a 5, like he was outing some of the same fucking people in his movies, which I don't know if many people realize unless you go down the rabbit hole. It's like he was exposing like the elite peds and stuff in like Eyes Wide Shut. I think he got murdered, to be honest. I'm really starting off strong with this one. But but he was doing it abstractly. Like you had to search for the truth. And Julian Assange is just like he is doing it from a kind of withdrawn energy, like with a withdrawn gut energy and withdrawn wing maybe, but like he's taking those secrets and those lies and the documents but he's blasting them out into the public. So he is using that 5 piece of like the secrets and the withholding and the information, and then he's blasting it like a 6.
Yeah, looking at his early like bio, I think it started off as him like the hacking stuff started off as an intellectual exercise, like him just flexing his intellectual ability, and then he stumbled upon like things. He's like, oh, okay, but I think at the beginning it seemed like kind of playful and just like him just like seeing how good his abilities are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that is a head type thing, is flexing like your know-it-allness, your prowess, your mental capacities, like often, or a strong head second, but
right, yeah. And I think that I don't think that you have to have necessarily a motivation initially to just be like, I'm just going to go out and expose everybody. Sometimes it's like you see a particular part of information if you're a 6 wing 5, and you become fixated on that, and that becomes something that galvanizes you to continue to walk down that path. And like that space in particular, 6 wing 5 is like searching through all of what is available in the network to find the one piece that is going to like be like the dynamite. It's gonna be the truth. And he's really big on truth. Like he's really big on, this is the actual facts.
yeah, and it's all oriented towards taking down institutions and like power structures and stuff. So it's like, and that does speak to prominent 6 somewhere. So that's like whether it's a wing 6 or a 6 or like a 6 fix, because you're aware of it. You know what I mean? Or even I guess even just like social type, which we don't have to get into right this moment, but yeah, because there's overlap between being a social dominant and being a 6, but
Yeah.
but also like I was thinking about his life. His whole life has been basically consumed by this, and it's like he's a martyr, and that is a super ego type. So that's 1, 2, or 6. That is sort of their life path, as being a bit of a martyr at times. Like he was like jailed, but the 6 version of it is like he was jailed for individuating and actualizing. Like he literally was jailed for putting the herd before himself, being the town crier, and the whistleblower, as you pointed out, is the 6 thing. And then he was punished for it, which is sort of the 6 pattern playing out that persecution. It's like, but his is like the tragic version of the 6 path. It's like
Right.
you're being ostracized or being kicked out or turned on by the herd, and so they often don't. And then he did it, and then that literally came to pass. So the tribe turned on him, like the government turned on him, the institutions turned on him, and even like barely anybody, like it's like this is a crime, people talk about it, but like the general public, it's like, why do you trust the government? It's like you should be fighting for people like Julian Assange to get freed. Like, anyway,
I think that there's something incredibly valuable about what he's doing. And even as a symbolic gesture, the fact that there is information that is kept from the public in a strategic way by the government. And the fact that he is exposing that for the public as a symbol and as in a very practical way too. Like he's not completely making it abstract, like you said with 5. Like there's something very like tangible about what he's doing, where he said that he wanted the public to go on and see for themselves what the truth is. Like he didn't want to like manipulate it. He didn't want to present it in a certain way. He said, this is the truth. You can go on and make your own call. And I think that's like the height of what a 6 can do, a 6-wing 5 especially. They're saying this is the truth. You can see for yourself what it is.
Oh, I love that.
There's also, he has a focus, I think in one of the videos we reviewed a while back, he was in an interview and someone asked him, they asked him something about his personal life, and he got really like irritated, and he's like, you can either interview me about my work or me. You can't like ask me about both. So I think this might be also like could be like a 6-5 thing, or where it's like the work speaks for itself. Like my work doesn't necessarily represent me. Like don't ask me about myself. Um and it's also kind of like a kind of an insular thing. Like I don't want my personal life to be exposed, or I don't want to like kind of let the two merge.
Yeah. There's a compartmentalization with 6-wing 5 or 5-wing 6 in that space. It's like an awareness of how information relates to you. And so keeping it depersonalized kind of keeps it separate. You know, the information is separate from who you are.
Yeah, it keeps it like in a way somehow more valid.
Right.
Like when it's well, I guess that's where the word professionalism comes from. Like when it's devoid of like the personal touch, it makes it more effective or more real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because 6-wing 5s are like also more paranoid about guarding that kind of stuff too. So
Yeah.
6-wing 7s are kind of more messy, and they're like they kind of I mean 6-wing 5s can get like this too, but it's more 6-wing 7s that need agreement. Like they need that consensus, I think, more because they are more extroverted in the sense that it's like to kind of like 6s like towards people, and it's like wanting to be part of the community, and 7s more sort of like la, 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 like floating around. And 5 is more like picking the one thing, and then no, this is the thing. So if you
Yeah.
don't also just like like the pattern of 6-wing 5 like infiltrating institutions to get their information and then expose it, like that is a real 6-wing 5 pattern that like we've even seen in these different groups where there's some 6-wing 5s that really like they create all these alts, and they try to infiltrate all these secret chat groups and discords and
Yeah, infiltrating, but being not seen. That's very 6-wing 5. It's like the detective, the investigator. I think the investigator fits 6-wing 5 more than what it's been typically assigned to, which is 5. I think 5 has a more decontextualized way of viewing their mental processes. And whether it's relevant or not is besides the point to them.
Yeah, 5-wing 6 is more the researcher kind of role than anything, because they're not really like they don't have like that core piece telling them that they have to use it for the higher good or any of that. Also, you're a good example because like you're literally a gray square and you're a 6-wing 5.
Well, like the Internet of Things, it's if you like intelligent evil dust scattered everywhere like confetti in everything.
So yeah, I think people will be like, "Oh, he's crazy." Yeah. So Julian Assange exposed the smart dust thing, which people just ignored totally. And actually, this video was hard to find because it got pulled very quickly by the big tech overlords. So I don't know. This video will probably get flagged on my YouTube. But yeah, they've been spraying us with smart dust for fucking years, and it's in our food and it's in all kinds of stuff. And he will elaborate on that. I know people think this is a conspiracy theory, but if you look up into the sky, you can clearly see that there are chemtrails. So, and I just lost a bunch of people.
I mean, it's a big dilemma. One of our lawyers, who of course we will have to educate them about, different counter surveillance techniques, but they said, God damn it, you know what we should do? We should like buy up some chunk of Madagascar or Patagonia or somewhere and just ban every electronic device from it. It's like a radio wave electronic, high intensity radio wave, free area, because of that constant buffeting that we have by principally commercial organizations trying to harvest our interactions with the world. That's the
So yeah, we were talking about this before because his energy and other stuff is a lot flatter, but when he's talking about things that he's actually kind of passionate about, his energy sort of lights up more, which I do think is the influence of the head, like that's head type kind of stuff.
Yeah, his energy is different here from what I've seen previously. Like, yeah, like his body language.
Mhm.
And also he's like he's wanting to teach people, like he's talking about how he wants to like share this information. We have to frame it and this kind of stuff. And I think that like leans also more to him being 6-wing-5 over like 5-wing-6 per se. And he's also talking about actually topics that someone like Yuval Noah Harari, who's a 5, a deeply evil 5, who I'll be doing a video on soon, who talks about the same topics but from this different perspective, which is, we want to be inside of people's bodies monitoring them. And Julian Assange is like warning us that this is what's happening. So I think too, when you have you have like your wing, so 5-wing-6 or 6-wing-5, it's like you have an awareness of what that type is doing, but you're just not really doing it so much, but you're like scared of it, or it's your shadow, or it's just like a danger zone sometimes.
Yeah, I think the idea of being controlled is particularly gonna trigger 6s. I mean, it's also like 9s can do that as well, but controlled specifically by information or being hacked in some way is very much like 6 awareness of how institutions or power can manipulate you. And 5s almost assume that they're going to be the ones doing the manipulating, or they would prefer that almost. Like they want to be the ones in control.
Oh, that's a great frame, yeah.
Yeah, because fives like are in a way intellectually superior and they know it. Like they see themselves above people. So they don't really see themselves as a victim of anything. They see themselves as the orchestrators of things.
Yeah, because they have like cut off their emotions, or they think they have. Whereas 6 is more like in tune with their emotions and their emotionality.
Mm-hmm.
And that humanity piece where
yeah, connection to the map.
Oh yeah.
The map, yeah, the grid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the principal economic model that all these AI companies have had, and the traditional surveillance capitalism companies have had. And the number of degrees of interaction. So what do I mean by that? If you kind of imagine a space of interactions, the number of types of interaction, the frequencies of interaction between you and everything else in the space is dramatically increasing. And in a way, you can consider each one of these degrees of freedom is kind of like triangulation. So to triangulate something in a two-dimensional space, well, okay, you just need two directions, two signals, directional signals. But we are giving off.
It's funny though, because he said basically kind of what me and Veronica said about being part of the grid. Like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, exactly. He just almost said the same thing. But yeah, when we're talking about his instinct stacking, I think self-pres, when combined with the 6-wing-5, is definitely going to heighten the sense of insularity, and also a sense of how they can particularly be like their privacy can be exploited, because self-preservations are aware of how privacy can be it can be a problem. And also they're very practical, and they're focusing on these minute details. So he seems extremely fine-tuned, which I think is the combination of his instinct with his core type. Do you think that Vittoria, that you could see like how social might influence, like a social dom might be different from a self-preservation dom in 6-wing-5?
I think with him it's a difficult case. Like initially it was a difficult thing to like land on one of the two because of the nature of the things he's discussing or like revealing or working with. But that was also because I was considering him being a 9 rather than a 6. However, now with him being 6, I think he rarely like goes into the moral aspects of it all. Like I don't see him discussing like how this is of like, or maybe he does, but he doesn't talk about like the, how do I say this in simple terms, how evil those people are. He talks about like how things aren't transparent or not revealed or whatever, like, which I don't know if I'm making sense, which seem very like dry. Like he doesn't go into the what it means for the bigger kind of like humanity of it all. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, because I think social added to 6 is going to heighten that. How is it affecting people, especially like groups of people, where I think it's not that he's not doing that, because I think he's self-pres social, but it's focused more on the tangible aspects of what the implications are, rather than the grander, wider, broader implications to groups of people. It's just a little bit less of a concern for him.
Yeah, also like the clout piece, he doesn't seem like, I don't know, he doesn't give me the impression that he's like sees himself as like a pilot of a movement, or does that, I don't know if this is a good way to say it.
Yeah, that's perfect actually. And for the people who are watching that aren't really familiar with Enneagram terminology, there's 3 instincts. People have a dominant instinct. It's either social, self-preservation, or sexual. And then there are combinations of those instincts called stackings, which was a term coined by the internet entity known as Jace. So the social self-preservation stacking is often very lofty and sermonizing and like Jordan Peterson perhaps, or like that kind of archetype. And then self-preservation social is more community focused, like people-y kind of
Earthy, like down to business, hands in the mud.
Oh yeah, hands in the mud, that's perfect. Yeah, they're getting dirty with the people, unless they are one of the dirty people who we will be
Yeah,
talking
hands in the mud, that's good.
If someone is using a mobile phone, for example, they're probably giving off a couple of hundred of these on average per second. something like that. Maybe not quite as, maybe a dozen, perhaps. Although if you do video, of course, there's vast amounts more. So anyway, between dozens and hundreds of measurements, we are emanating constantly. And so if you collect those together, you can effectively triangulate someone's activities and behavior. And I don't think by chopping out many of them or adding kind of chaff, cover, that you can make that much of a difference. And increasingly it's less. And in terms of the Internet of Things, there's research prototypes now, which I assume are being used by intelligence agencies, of very small electronic circuits that you can just put in paper or put in paint or on the walls that are powered by the GSM stations. And they operate as the GSM radio wave passes through them. It gives them enough power for a very small amount of time to do things. So obviously that tendency is going to continue. It's not like the Internet of Things, it's if you like, intelligent evil dust scattered everywhere, like confetti in everything. So I think it's increasingly hard for human beings to work out how to deal with that. And the only way I can see is that we've got to securitize this problem. Computer security industry is it's been engaged in outrageous securitization for a very long period of time.
The solution is so as self-press 6, it's like we must securitize it. People must, like, if people don't know what to do, and he's also projecting to, like, the people don't know what to do about it. It's like, honey, the people don't even know this is happening. Like, maybe more people will know now after this video.
Yeah, I think he has high, he's overestimating the public knowledge.
He's like, yeah, of course you know about this. The next step is now what to do about it.
Like, if you can get through people, yeah, to people that this is happening.
Typing up threats, etc. I get how the game is played. It needs to be securitized in a different.
I get how the game is played. So that does speak to him having like a 5 or an 8 influence, I feel like, because that is like sort of you're conscious that, like you said at the beginning, that we're on a chessboard, that we are pawns, there are people outside of the chessboard that are controlling this game. And
right. Yeah, that's like rejection. It's the tendency to gamify or to kind of just block people into what they are particularly doing to you. Like it's almost a defensive way of seeing the world. It just kind of depersonalizes people in how you view them and how they can affect you. And I think that goes for all of the rejection types in the Enneagram, which I don't know if you want to explain what rejection means for the Enneagram, but
Yeah, I think you kind of did it already.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think he has an 8 at all, though. If we're gonna talk Enneagram, I think he has a heavy 9 fix if he's a 6. Because he could be way. I feel like if I was in his place, I would be way more erratic about it all. And he's like he's pretty muted. Just like he's not heads on. He's not like emotional.
yeah, I think 9 in the gut center, and then we've already talked before we started this call that he would be a 3 wing 2 in the heart center last.
Yeah.
So that would make him, if he's 9 wing 1 in the gut center, then that would mean that he's a 6-9-3. I know this might be a lot for people who aren't used to the Enneagram. It's a trifixation. His trifixation would be 6-9-3, and his shadow type would actually be 5-1-2. So then he would have triple superego, if you will, which means that he has each of the three types that feels like somehow responsible for like society, like you should be doing these things, these are the right things to do. There's like this orientation to following rule, like that, not to say that they follow the rules because they can break the rules, but there's an orientation to the rules existing, if you will.
Different way. We need to securitize the, as I mean, you turn something into a threat and thereby change behavior or get economic gain from it. So we need to securitize the threat.
Turn this into a song, like
by these developers. The people who run these companies, it's a threat to them. It's a threat to the most powerful people in society. And to eliminate the notion that there's a place that powerful people can hide from, or skilled people can hide from this phenomenon. And that's the way to get all those people who have an ability to make a difference, to make a difference.
Yeah, and that's 6 as fuck.
It's like take a shot every time he says securitize.
Or threat. Yeah.
Or
And also
or the elite.
oh yeah.
And that again, that's a reactive thing too, like, and that does point to also rejection, like the threat to the whatever he's conceiving, which again, that is an 8 thing too, but yeah, like we said, he's unlikely to have 8 in his typing. And we can take a moment just to honor how hot he is for a nerd.
Oh yeah, the red tie, the like right red corner, sorry, the right bottom corner. Yeah, like a little ghost. Oh yeah. Pasty.
He's like a silver fox.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a fox, he's like a wet ferret.
Sexy wet ferret, though. You know what though, I've weirdly noticed with some of the like Caucasian 6'5", they do actually weirdly look really pale and like like malnourished and like
You never
Yeah,
see the sun.
Dylan Moran.
yeah. Like because they're just eating Mr. Noodles and ale or something. It's still
These guys aren't surfing exactly. They're not surfing.
like, this is pretty weird. I didn't even know that this happened. I'm kind of curious to watch it, even though if there is a video somewhere. Lady Gaga's like, I'm pretty sure in the Illuminati, so she didn't pass your 6'5" bullshit detector, Julian. And we can look at his quotes, and this was also where I started when I was re-looking at his quotes. I was like, oh no, these are pretty sexy. Veronica is probably on the money with him being a 6. Media is a big problem around the world. It's powerful and can abuse its power. Yes, that's true. What we know is everything. It is our limit or what we can be. Oh, that's like a head type quote, big time. So yeah, head type is 5, 6, and 7 for people watching. If wars can be started with lies, they can be stopped by truth.
I feel like this is a bit too idealist for a 6, I feel.
Oh. But that is this
Like,
kind of motivation to
yeah.
We must discover the truth. We must expose the lies to get to the truth.
Right.
Oh, look at this. I'm pretty hard to kill, and I come from a very long-lived family line. I'm quite adaptable.
Oh,
That's a nice. That's like the 9, 9, 6 resilience.
963 in particular, like, or 693, that tri-type.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, like anytime, like 693 sees themselves as a part of the lineage, like these, and they also are referencing back to their context, where they're coming from, who they are in the line of people that led up to them.
Yeah, why do you not see 9-wing 8? Why 9-wing 1? Because 9-wing 8 also has that kind of like I'm invincible. I'll just
Yeah, I did consider 9 wing 8 for his gut center.
Yeah,
But he has kind of a finesse to the way he interacts with others that I don't feel like, I feel like it's more 9 wing 1, and it's more of the idealism piece rather than the 9 wing 8 kind of archetypal, just about me. Like 9 wing 8s are very just almost don't bother me, don't infringe on me. It's just more self-focused, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
he's also teachery, so notice there's usually one influence on people who are kind of teachery. I mean, there's obviously exceptions, but yeah, he does have a kind of droopy, uh, what did you say it was, Veronica? Like a log or something?
Yeah. Yeah, he seems, I mean, as far as like introversion goes, he seems quite introverted, quite low energy.
Oh
But
yeah, very.
that doesn't always necessarily mean withdrawn as a Enneagram. Like we have to be careful about using those interchangeably with introversion, because it means something specific to the Enneagram, which is just a more like you go into yourself to get what you need rather than outside of yourself.
So here's also what I found, where I was like, oh, okay, Julian Assange, the whistleblower. So I'm thinking to circle back to the 6 archetype. And I was like, I'm gonna know there's other whistleblowers that are not 6s. I do know this, but it is the 6 is the whistleblower. Also, I think like self-pres 6 wing 5s, just to be superficial for a second. He does have like that kind of 9 wing 1 poise, but he's also kind of sloppy and like he looks like a kind of grungy professor or something, which I think is like
Yeah, he dresses terribly, let's be honest.
hot. I think how he dresses, but I like grungy, gross like guys that look like they don't bathe. So
Yeah, like SPs are just like comfort. Like, okay, I'm gonna be comfortable,
Yes.
So it's like social as an instinct is gonna be like a little bit more aware of how they're being perceived, no matter what their Enneagram type is.
yeah, that's a good point. I like to show up for all these Zooms that we do. Like I'm aware from the top, underneath but on the bottom I'm wearing sweats. Social on the top, self-pres on the bottom. Okay.
Very pleased to be amongst so many people I can respect. I don't think
Yeah, this is like a sex tribal. My people. I can respect you.
Finally, people I can respect. Like, I think, yeah, that's a bit too sassy for 9. Or like 9 is not gonna have the respect part too. I think 6 is like, you gotta earn my respect. 9 is like, oh, we're all people.
Mhm.
I don't have reasons to hate you, like, unless you give me something to hate you, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little wing 5 hubris, I think.
I love this.
in a room with so many people that I think hold to my values. That is really
Values, yeah.
and I'm very grateful for the organizers for inviting everyone and me. And I see in the front row have Anwar Ibrahim, who I met in Malaysia last year at a by-election for the opposition. Just after speaking to Anwar a few hours later that night, I was detained by the secret police in Malaysia. So,
I mean, and he's doing that little 6 flex of like, I was a bad boy.
when you speak to him, be careful. So we've heard a lot here about the problems in the developing world. And in the work that I have done, certainly I have covered many of those. And we are censored in all the rogues gallery states, China, Iran, Israel.
But I think what he's saying is really interesting, because it seems like 6s, like part of their reactivity is just not like this emotional instability. It's about like, okay, here's the problem. let's talk about it, you know, and he immediately goes into, well, this is the problem. And the competency aspect is like, okay, now let's solve it. Let's do something. And the SP part is in a practical way. Let's talk about the tangibles.
Yeah.
So I think like very easily, you can see a lot of aspects of his personality coming out just in the first few things that he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is too, it's like there's levels of health for a 6 too, where when they're at lower levels of health, that is when they are like being like like which is sort of like the joke or the meme of a 6. The pendulum swinging back and forth, like, Daddy, I love you, Daddy, I hate you. But when they're at the higher levels of health, they're like leaders, and they can because they have access to that, like that citizen. I'm the citizen, I'm the global citizen, and they know what the people want, and they know how to speak to the people and whatever. And it's like they're able to calmly and confidently trust themselves and step into that powerful aspect.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is the gift of 6. To be able to say things in a way that bring truth and revelation to the community. And the reactivity at the high levels is not going to be about like making things overblown or just being nuts. It's about laying out the truth and laying out what needs to be said and what needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we can talk about that for a second too, where it's like the 6 at a healthy level that's whistleblowing or calling stuff out is doing it more from this kind of perspective, where it's like you know, speaking truth to power, like exposing people, but from like a strategic kind of calm place. But then you can see other whistleblowers that get like that kind of go like insane, and they start accusing people of things that they didn't do. They're making up stories. I mean, and we've seen that play out in culture quite a lot recently, and probably a lot of those people were unhealthy 6s with unhealed.
Maybe Alex Jones too, though.
My favorite of all the 6s, Alex Jones, but he gets riled up because like I believe in what he's doing, and we will be covering him in a video, or the people who want to be in that video. It might be a solo venture, we'll see. But he gets really riled up, but he's got an 8 fix too, so he's got double reactive, but he wilds the fuck out. Because but it's because he gets upset because it's like people aren't listening, and that's when he gets even more wound up. And I think that's also like an attachment or adaptation type thing, where it's like if you actually do speak out about something and the tribe is not mirroring it back to you, it can feel very isolating and horrifying. But I mean, I watch band.video semi frequently. I don't watch that much anymore because it gives me a headache, but like when he talks about people are listening to him, he's really like embodying like the highest 6 virtues, if you will. And it's actually, I find it touching and beautiful, because it's like they're also humble. Like, I mean, with a wing 5, you got a little bit of intellectual hubris, but it's a more humble type to lead, because maybe deep down they want glory on some level, but it's like it is more about like, it's you helped, we all did it together, we're all in it together.
Yeah, and it's the cause, like it's what the work speaks for itself. Like it's just 6s can tend to like deplatform themselves a little bit, but in the kind of way. But that can also be a great thing, because he's not making it about his personality, about who he is. He's making it about the work. He's making about what he's doing. And I mean, that is like a wonderful thing about 6s is they make it about the work.
Oh, I love that. Dropping nuggets.
Probably nines too, but I think six is more. Or maybe nines don't do any work. No, I'm just, whatever. Just kidding.
Well, like if we're talking about different kinds of whistleblowers, and I did consider this, like, I think nines are calling out a different, like, it's not the information that concerns them as much. They're interested in how people are connecting to the world, how they're connecting to each other. They're worried about isolation. They're worried about the circumstances that people find themselves in. Like a 9-wing-1 is going to talk about, look at so and so, like look at the situation, look at their lives, look how they have to do this and this and this. And I think the 6th locus of control is specifically about the knowledge, the information, the institutional ways that we receive knowledge, and how that impacts our lives in the broader sense.
Yeah, and we could even like think about how some of the other types would be whistleblowers. I was also trying to think about, like, I don't know if you could call Russell Brand a whistleblower per se, but he definitely turned on the establishment. He's like the biggest 7 ever. And it's like he turned on Hollywood. I mean, he was always a provocateur anyways. I didn't like him until he actually started speaking out about stuff that's going on in the planet, but he's made it like his mission now. Like he's exposing people left and right, and but he does it with like a jester quality where he's like making it kind of fun, making it funny, and asking questions, and like, so there's like a levity to everything that he's doing, even though he's talking about quite dark stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, like 7s can be amazing cultural critics. I also think of like Alan Moore, who's perhaps like 7-9 area. He could be. But in either way, like he's a different type. He's not a 6 for sure. And he's also kind of like exposing aspects of culture that need to be talked about. So
yeah, I could see him being a 5-wing-4.
There's a lot of overlap between 5-wing-4s and 7s in the way they are approaching. I think it's the influence of frustration versus in a conceptual way.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I guess like the motivation too for like a 7 to be a whistleblower, if you will, is probably because you did something that personally affected them. Like, I hate to admit this, but it's like I was never political. I don't care. I mean, I hate that I've had to like even into any of this, but it's like, oh damn, these 1% motherfuckers are ruining my life now. All right, bitches, you just like made an enemy, and now I'm going to be learning how the mind works, learning how propaganda works, learning how the Enneagram works, and I'm going to use it to take you down. Because you messed up my life, you messed up my fun, your social engineering screwed up my enjoyment of life, and now you're going to suffer. So, anyways, don't mess with frustration types. Because once we get our own we will sink our teeth into you, and we won't let go until we've bitten it off.
Right. Yeah. And like 1s can be cultural critics. Of course, they do that due diligence as well. And they're tend to be lofty preachers of, the moral rights, the ways of that things should be from a very idealistic place. And what's interesting about Julian Assange is that he never really talks too much about the way things should be as much. Like he's saying, this is the way things are. I'm exposing it.
Would a 3 be a whistleblower?
Well, I think that would be like the last one, the last type to be a whistleblower, but
there would have to be like a social gain, probably. They'd have to get a job. They whistleblow about the person whose job they want.
Yeah. Like there's a specific motivation to do it for themselves. Yeah.
And then, yeah, 1 is like what you said. It's like here's what you should be doing. Oh, they see the bad man. It's a super ego bad man thing, but that's improper. 2s, like I could see a 2 being a whistleblower with like, if they had like more punchy fixes, like.
Yeah, it could be like if someone was exploited, or if like children were being hurt. I bet you there was some twos on the whole front line of the Catholic Church, covering up the assault of teenage boys. So
Ugh, yeah.
I
And
bet
like,
you a lot of nines and twos were involved in that, because the innocent being exploited is going to be a real big problem for nines and twos, as well as sixes.
yeah, it's because six is the underdog thing, and then even maybe eight's like a high level of health eight. um, wouldn't want to see people be exploited, but
And you have like Muhammad Ali isn't really like a whistleblower, but he moralizes a lot. He had a lot of interviews where he's just like moralizing, telling people they're not seeing the truth and that corporations are doing that or the government is doing this and that. So
If I had to categorize the kind of whistleblowers, I would say like frustration types are going to be like critics, pointing out what's wrong. That, and then like the positive types, probably more along the lines of like, this is the way that the world should be. Let's strive for this beautiful world that we envision together. And that's not really a whistleblower, but they're kind of putting out there what needs to be done to make the world a better place. And then
or an
yeah,
image like an image, a visualization of what the ideal world is.
yes, right. But I think the whistleblower particularly is just, that archetype is so very six, because like they're wanting to call out the authority on a matter. That's what that's going to be the six thing that's going to trigger them the most.
yeah, and I think like Julian, I just did a quick cursory search to see if Julian Assange had been typed in any of the Enneagram things, and I think people typed him as a 5. But like you made a good point about the whistleblower thing, because it's like 5s really, I don't think would feel as compelled to whistleblow. Like they would just be more like kind of like criticizing from a distance or something and not really engaging with it. So it's more just like, oh, look at what these fuckers are doing. Okay, well, I've got my own things that I'm doing, so you can deal with it or not.
Yeah, I mean they could incidentally just put out stuff there that shows the real situation, and I don't think, like, they have no problem doing that. But to its relevancy to in a moral and even a slight moral sense, it's going to be less.
Yeah.
Or legitimacy. Like sixes are concerned with legitimacy of authority, legitimacy of information, and or data, and fives are not as concerned with legitimacy as utility to them personally.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, and it's back to like that sort of, I think on either side of like the head types, it's like 5s and 7s. It's more like, does this directly affecting me? Like, well, it is, then they don't, not as likely to care as much, unless it's like a really juicy thing that they can sink their teeth into, like mentally, where it's like mentally exciting.
Bomb dropping, like sevens like to drop the bomb of information because it makes a splash. It does something for them, It's like, oh, here's the information bomb, it's like,
Yeah, it has to be provocative yeah, personally provocative. And maybe on some level it's like that for 5s, like where they'd have to get juice out of it somehow.
Bring it on.
You can watch Bring It On.
US government, in terms of its attack on WikiLeaks,
Yeah, look at that hairstyle.
has tried to construct
It is kind
a
of
theory.
a SP 6 wing 5 or SP 9 wing 8 hairstyle.
That's like a Hobbit archer kind of thing going. Medieval, anyways.
Oh yeah, I guess that could be like the SP 9 wing 1, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's a vibe.
wizard vibe.
Which, if permitted, will be the end of national security journalism, not just in the United States, but also about the United States.
Yeah, I feel like the more translucent the skin, the more 5 there is in someone's personality.
That claim is that journalists can't solicit information from sources, and to solicit information is to be involved in a conspiracy.
And accomplice
and
conspiracy.
Yeah, and the United States, in terms of the charge types that it's trying to charge me with, those include conspiracy and conspiracy to commit espionage. This is rubbish. We cannot tolerate this at the political level or the media level. If we do tolerate it, then that standard will be erected. Now, what happens in
Some super ego stuff right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's even if he's not social, he's saying we shouldn't tolerate, we can't abide this, etc., etc.
Yeah.
practice? How does traditional investigative journalism work? Well, you hear a rumor about some event occurring. Let's say it's an assassination squad assassinating people. You hear a rumor that there might have been an event, and you go and speak to your sources, or perhaps one approaches you and say, I heard that this happened. And then you say, well, that's good, but we need to be able to prove it. So do you have information that can prove it? And then they say, well, I think I might have some report on the incident. And then you say, well, that's good. Can we have that report? Can we see that report? And that's the way journalism has always been done. Now, the US DOJ...
I believe in what he's doing, but boy, I left my body.
I didn't leave my body. Maybe that's proof of 6. I'm like, yes, give me. I want the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, do you want to go on like a US government rant, Vittoria?
Oh God, where do I start? Oh my Lord. Everything you believe is most of everything you believe, even as in the educated class. Like, let's say 90% of it was the narrative was created by the US government. Everything about everything you believe about everything. Anyways, I don't know. This can sum it up.
Yeah, I'm the only US citizen on this call. I don't know if you guys know who Neil Postman is. Have you heard of that name? He talked about the trends of media and information over the past decades until recently. And basically, it's becoming more and more consolidated. And narratives are becoming more and more like handed down. This is what we're going to talk about. This is what the algorithm is going to choose. And let's just focus on these core stories for the week or for the day, whatever the case is. So there's like a way that these information streams are like further and further narrowing and becoming more and more manipulated by outside influence. And this is, of course, because the media is owned by corporations and CEOs, and those are also entangled with government in certain ways. So it's just like a tainted, it's tainted information at all times. Like there's hardly any way to get for the US citizen to get information that is not tainted by propaganda or tainted by how it's going to be received by the public. So it's just this is something I feel like is one of the more important things about, if we're going to hold the idea of a democracy, this is one of the more important things that really give us the ability to even discern what issues need to be addressed in a democracy, because the whole thing is being constructed and manipulated
By the 1%.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a rant a little bit.
Yeah, as like a disclaimer, I think like all 3 of us have different like political views, but like I think we all have good overlap in terms of like anti-corporation, anti-government, and thinking and understanding or believing that the government is basically 5 corporations in a trench coat.
Oh, I like that. That's a great visual. yeah, they're all like, again, like I've never been into politics, so this is all pretty fresh to me, freshly horrifying, but it seems like it's who's at the very top. I mean, I think there's competing people. It's sort of like a small group of insanely wealthy families who hide in the shadows, and I also think that it's like the government, like the deep state, if you will, the Pentagon, the CIA, like all of these things, and and they've been doing all kinds of shit to the public forever. I'm more interested in like the human behavioral stuff that they've done to people, uh, like MK Ultra and stuff like that. But we've been MK Ultra'd. Like we are literally MK Ultra'd by our TVs. Like we're MK Ultra'd by TikTok. We're MK Ultra'd by Instagram. Like the fact that they literally the 1% or the deep state or whoever's up there, the CCP, whoever it is, they're all working either together in conjunction because they all want the same thing. In my mind, they're all going to end up duking it out at the end, if they get far enough. And so it's like they are socially engineering us by controlling the flow of information, because like most people are reacting to information, and you're only getting this kind of information, that's like shaping your reality. Like, or not everybody, obviously, like not people who actually think or pay attention, I guess, but it's like we're being socially engineered by them withholding information and amplifying other information. And that is through the government, through the TV, through the TikTok, through the internet, through news. Like right now in Canada, it's like no one even pays attention to what's happening that they've passed. Has it already passed? It's like they've been passing the censorship bill where basically Trudeau, who has openly said he admires the CCP's model of dictatorship, that he's trying to now make it legal for the Canadian government to control our news and what we see and upload to the internet. And no one seems to fucking care because they think it's going to somehow benefit them. It'll boost Canadian content. First of all, if you make good enough content and art, you wouldn't have to have the government do that for you. So maybe if you think you're going to benefit from that, then you should actually go back to learning some talent, learning some skill. Actually, you can't learn talent, so some of you are hopeless. Anyways, I'm gonna step off my soapbox.
Yeah, that's grim. Yeah, let's watch that.
I say that this generation, or that perhaps our generation, but anyway, this generation being born now, in seconds in most countries, very shortly in most countries, and it's already happened in say China, most European countries, the United States, is the last free generation. You were born, and either immediately or within, say, a year, you are known globally. Your identity in one form or another, coming as a result of your idiotic parents, plus your name and photos on Facebook, or as a result of insurance applications or passport applications, transport on airlines, etc. You are known to all the world's major powers, all the world's major state powers, and all the world's major commercial powers. That's a very different situation for individuals to be in than they have previously been in. That a small child now, in some sense, has to negotiate its relationship with all the world's major powers. Of course, in practice, it can't do anything. Its parents are not managing that negotiation. But it puts us in I think, a very different position, in the sense that very few, in fact, maybe only a few people in this audience, very technically capable people, are able to live apart, to choose to live apart, to choose to go their own way. They must be part of not only the state, but the major state-like corporations, so powerful they may as well be states, and not just their own state, but other states as well. That's a significant change, cultural change for humanity.
So this concludes the first video in the Masters of War series, and this was Heroes of the Apocalypse with Julian Assange. Stay tuned.
I'm losing sleep over the secrets that you keep, baby. I'm losing sleep over the secrets that you keep.
Want me to blow it?
Don't worry, this won't be put on the internet. I promise.